I, 25 female, called the cops on my spouse, 28 male last night, and now I don't know how to fix it. So last night I went out to dinner and then a few drinks with my friend. I came home afterwards and my boyfriend of 8.5 years had a few beers too, which was fine. We were both in a good mood and everything was great. I gave him my leftovers from dinner and he ate them and was very giddy and grateful. Fast forward about an hour. We were listening to music and the volume had been at a reasonable volume, but one of his favorite songs come on and he wanted to blast it up. Out of respect for my neighbors who have kids in the same building, I tried to reason with him to keep it a bit lower, but still a louder volume than what we had been listening up to this point. He kept insisting that he would not back down. He tried to grab the remote out of my hands and neither of us were letting go. We struggled for about a minute, at which point I grabbed his thumb to pry his hand off the remote and I held onto it with a good amount of force for a few seconds more, moving his hand away from me. While I still had his thumb in my grip, he hit me in the jaw and that's when I let go. He said I tried to break his thumb and that this was a defensive hit, and then tried to continue reaching for the remote again. He was not touching me at this point, but I warned him if he didn't calm down and back off that I would call 911. He said again that it was self-defense and I wouldn't do it. So I dialed 911 and showed him before pressing the talk button. He again said, "Go ahead, you're not going to do it," and then reached at my phone to press the talk button himself. And I backed my phone away from him, surprised for a moment, but then just decided to hit the button and go ahead with the call. The cops showed up while I was still talking with dispatch, and we went over the incident outside while other officers went in to arrest him for assault. After giving my statement at the station and going over everything, I then realized that he was actually going to have to go to court for this, and I've basically been crying on and off ever since. No incident like this has ever happened before with us, and he has been under some stress with work this past week, and he has a short temper when drinking, but never gets violent with me or anyone when he's drunk. He doesn't even throw stuff around or break things either, just gets into arguments a bit more easily. I don't want this to end up giving him a record and mess up the rest of his life in terms of jail time, or even just making it difficult for him to get employment because of this one incident where yes, he hit me, but I'm not really injured, just shocked honestly. And now there's a no contact order on him until his court date, that's a month from now. I honestly just want him to come home so we can talk things through, but because this is considered assault, our entire relationship is up in the air right now, and I hate it so much, I wish last night had never happened. We live in Ontario, Canada, by the way. Does anyone know how I could get the Crown to drop the charges, or at least drop the no contact order?
The best thing I ever accidentally trained my dog to do was to throw up in one specific spot because, like I said, when he was a puppy, he was incredibly sickly, right? And when you live in an apartment, you can't just pick up your gagging dog and run them down the stairs or the elevator in time for them to have their accident. So I would tell him to go to his room, which was his crate, and he would run to his crate and he would throw up on the crate pad, and it was really easy cleanup. It worked great. I would brag about this in a weird way. Like my friends would say, "Oh, I got home from work today and my dog had thrown up all over the carpet," and I would say, "My dog never does that because he's trained to throw up in one specific spot. But I don't know, he's a Belgian Malinois, so he's pretty smart." It was a weird thing to brag about, especially because eventually I selfishly took his crate away. And I say selfishly because he loved his crate. He would put himself down for little naps in there. He'd collect all his toys and treats in there. But it was ugly, it was big, it took up a lot of space, so I just took it away. But I thought he'll be fine. He can take naps on my bed. He can put his toys in a basket. I packed it up one day, I put it in a closet, and I left for work. And when I got home, I realized that the worst thing I ever accidentally trained my dog to do was to throw up where he sleeps.
My friend Dan recently found out he might be a father. I say might because the girl he's been having an on/off relationship with, Kara, is pregnant, and he's not sure if he's the dad. She offered to get a paternity test once the baby is born and doesn't expect any kind of support until they find out if the baby is his. He's on board with that and appreciates that she's not pushing him into fatherhood if the baby isn't his.
Yeah, that's respectful.
The issue is that when he was talking to me about it, he also said he wants to get a maternity test done to make sure the baby is hers. Kara is visibly pregnant. We know she's pregnant because she did a maternity photo shoot and posted it on social media, so it's obvious she's not faking being pregnant. We've both seen her in person too, and she's most definitely pregnant. However, Dan believes that the baby might not be hers. I tried to explain to him that that's not how biology works.
I was going to say, I might call him an idiot. I mean, Jesus.
And unless she got an embryo implanted in her, she's definitely the mother.
Yeah.
She's a waitress and works for minimum wage plus tips, so I doubt she has the money to afford embryo implantation. Plus, it's ridiculous to think that she'd do all of that just to baby trap a guy who is unemployed and living with his parents at 32.
Oh, these people brought the Carfax.
Plus, he's never donated sperm. He's genuinely convinced that the baby might not biologically be hers, despite not only me, his mom, and our other friends explaining that that's not how babies/pregnancy work.
Denial is a river in Egypt.
He's still insisting on a maternity test and told me that I was being ridiculous and that I'm the one who doesn't understand biology, despite me studying to be an autopsy pathologist, which has required quite literally years of biology classes.
Ooh.
I got fed up and called him a senseless idiot and told him to call me when he got his head screwed up back on straight.
Period.
Ever since then, he's been spamming my phone and has gotten a couple of our friends to spam me as well, telling me I'm being insensitive and he's just stressed about possibly being a dad. So, am I the asshole for calling my friend an idiot?
The first one. I slept with my girlfriend's mum 2 years ago.
Oh my god.
Yeah, a strong start.
Even just from the title, I'm like,
I
I'm
know.
stressed.
I can't tell her because I know she'll dump me and it'll probably end her parents' marriage. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So first, let me say I'm not the one in the wrong, but I have to say it somewhere. It's eating me alive.
Okay, fair enough.
2 years ago, when I was 19, I met this woman while I was working as a personal trainer. She was in her 40s but looked 25. She took an interest in me, invited me over a number of times, and we slept together a few times. Okay. After one of our meetups, she said it was wrong for someone her age to be with me because I was too young and she changed gyms. My girl...
Interesting. We're off to a flying start.
It's not going well. My girlfriend and I have been together for just under a year. She's amazing and I love her very much. 2 months ago, I met her family for the first time and I was shocked. Like, she took me to her house where I had hooked up with this woman before and I felt I was being pranked.
Oh my god.
I feel like this story could have been written with more suspense. Like, you already know where this is going. That's okay.
That's okay. Well, I mean, from the title alone, like, we already know where the story is going. It's going to be juicy, so I'm just kind of keen to see how things play out.
Before I see her mum, it hits me. I have a type, and they definitely both fit that type.
Oh my god.
I know, I feel like that was an unnecessary sentence.
Well, I mean, they are also family, so...
I had been hooking up with a single mum, and I'm now with her daughter.
Oh.
Then her mum and dad pop out, and we both almost shit ourselves. I'm reading this verbatim. I met her parents. They've been married for 20 years. And I realized I was a married woman's boy toy. I'm so ashamed. Later that week, her mum finds my number and tells me I can never speak of what happened. She says my girlfriend will hate me forever and I will be the one to break up her parents' marriage. So now I'm stuck with this secret. She invited me to spend Thanksgiving with her family, and since my family's 1,000 miles away, I already told her I don't plan on going home, so I don't have an excuse to not go. So now I'm going to have to sit there at a table enjoying Thanksgiving dinner with the woman I had an affair with, her husband, and their daughter who I'm in love with.
Am I wrong for giving away $10,000 without my husband's consent? My 40 female grandma deceased raised me to be fiscally responsible. The second I was able to get a bank account, she hammered into my head that I needed a bank account that would be secret from my partner. According to her, she had a ton of friends who had found lovely men who turned nasty and had to sneak out in the middle of the night with nothing but clothes on their back. She ingrained in me the idea that a kind husband could turn sour and I needed to make sure I had some protection, just in case. I'd love to say that she was paranoid, but my mother had to disappear on my dad after finding out he was cheating on her. She has always been thankful that she has what she calls a Grammy secret fund and that she's been saving it for years. So now I've been accumulating my own Granny secret fund for 22 years and have accumulated quite a lot. Beyond that account, I've incurred a great savings with my husband, paid into my retirement fund, and always paid my bills on time. We've been together for 15 years. Am I wrong for giving away $10,000 without my husband's consent? He's always been great, but my best friend hasn't been so lucky. She met and married a man who seemed to be wonderful, but over the past 6 years, he's become emotionally and financially abusive. Not to mention racist and completely negligent towards their children. I was shocked because he was so great in the beginning, but I've even witnessed it. And for a little backstory, my best friend and I have been so since I was 6 years old, so we were girls together. She's never asked me for anything, but she told me when she left him, he froze her out of the accounts. So she had nothing for rent or to pay for a lawyer. She had been paying into their accounts for years, but she trusted him to have his name as the only name on them, and he drained the accounts. So without a second thought, I transferred her $15,000 and told her I honestly don't care if she ever pays it back. But when my husband found out, he was enraged that I saved into a secret account, and secondly, that I would give away that kind of money. Am I wrong?